All right. The Thursday, November 2nd meeting of the Parks and Recreation Commission is now in order. Okay. Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Idner.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Roll call.
Commissioner Gilbert.
Here.
Commissioner Intner.
Here.
Chair Firestone.
Here.
Vice Chair Murphy.
Here.
Commissioner Jacobson.
Present.
All are here tonight. Great.
Very good.
Welcome.
Okay. Public comments? Do we have any public comments? We have a record-breaking audience tonight.
Yeah, we do.
It's going to be a great meeting.
Yeah.
All right. So the first thing we have is a presentation from Kate Hoffman and some of her fencing students
Yes.
about the fencing class.
I'm wondering if we might want to have.
They're not going to actually fence.
Right.
No,
So
that's
the
okay.
Darn.
Maybe you could go over to that mic, Kate, because
Yeah.
then the viewing audience will be able to see you from there.
that's the
And
camera.
likewise with the.
If they stand in this general area, that would be.
Oh, in the center too, but I'm just
Yeah.
thinking they won't be able to hear them, though. Well, they won't be able to hear Kate. Okay,
She's her link too.
turn your mic.
So where am I
Okay,
sitting?
Your choice.
that right there, Kate. And just hit that little button on the mic. That one.
Okay, all right. So you're going to take out your mask and your weapons and your gloves. So I'm Kate Hoffman, and I've been fencing. I've lived in Ojai for like 20 years, and I've been fencing for 18 of those years, and I started when I was not a kid at all. I've been teaching at the rec department for 5 years now.
Yeah.
And I've got a loyal and fantastic group of students and new ones all the time. But Lily and Henry Armstrong are two of my longest. They were really little tiny kids when they started. We teach épée, which if you're familiar, people who think of fencing, often there are three weapons. There's foil, épée, and saber. And we teach épée, which is, you'll see how this works. I'm also an artist, and I live in Ojai. And what else would you like to know?
Yeah,
Would you like to ask
she
me
has,
a question?
She has taught art classes with us as well.
Yes.
Her classes are on Tuesday afternoons. Beginners are 3:30 to 4:30, and intermediate are 4:30 to 5:30. And we also have an adult class, 5:30 to 6:30.
Yes.
So Tuesday afternoons, early evenings.
Yes, so we welcome adults. We don't ever have too many adults, but I started fencing when I was 52, so, and I'm still doing it, so it's a lifelong thing. So, and in fact, I have a friend, Pat Bedrosian, who has been to the World Cup. She's 82, and she's still fencing. So these guys, this is only the beginning. Do you want to come and stand out
Come
here?
on,
And
come on,
I'm
center court here.
Yeah. Oh. Well,
Guess you won't actually be fencing then.
no, and they weren't going to, but I was going to show you how they start about. They just did their first tournament just a month or so ago, and they did extremely well. They were fencing adults and other teenagers, from all over this area. they are going to, what I'd like you guys to do is, Henry, you can put on your mask and show them what, and maybe we can, we can't fence in here because they fence on a long, narrow strip. It's called a piste, which is French for strip. And, but show them, so now take off your mask, show them, so as if the on-guard line is where Lily is standing, and you come here and face her and show them how you start about. So you, it's very regimented, and it's because, and I believe it's because it's intrinsically dangerous. And we have a lot of rules about what you need to do to be safe. And one of them, and this is a rule across the board for everybody I've ever known who fenced, you go to your on-guard line, you salute your opponent and your director, so you can salute your opponent and your audience, and then you put on a mask, and you touch bells, which is just if there's electricity going to these. And then you go, and then the director, if it were me, I would say, so Henry, put your mask on, and Lily, pretend to put your mask on. And I say, on guard, fencers ready? Ready. Fence. And then they will fence until someone gets a touch. So, and Henry, would you like to allow everybody to hold your weapon and to see?
Is everything scored electronically in the tournaments?
Yes, yes.
So are certain places of the body more points than others, or?
No, épée, the entire body is the target. With the other weapons, there are different. Foil is only your chest, and you wear a thing called a lame, which is a little silver vest. And you can see there's a button on the end of that, and the button is depressed, and then the little tiny wires go to the other end, and you plug into a cord. Yeah, show them your body cord. And then the cord plugs into another cord that goes back and then all the way to the middle again, where there's a box with lights.
And then,
and
Henry,
so,
how do you hold it? Is it like that?
Let me see. Yeah, you hold it like this.
Okay.
yes. So you hold it with your thumb pointing. That's called a pistol grip. There's something called a French grip, and this is called a pistol grip for obvious reasons. A French grip, when fencing started to be taught, so people were like running each other through on the streets. And then in the 1700s, in France, and fencing is really a French sport, people started to teach how to, if you're walking down the street with a sword in a scabbard, if you decide to have a fight with somebody, you need to know what you're doing, and that's how this whole sport started. So, so there were fencing schools, and you started wearing protective equipment so you could practice. And most bouts became really technical and I said to Sophocles the other day, it's about first blood. It's about she gets the first touch, and that touch draws blood, and then she wins. So nobody dies. That's the idea of it, and that's the idea of the teaching of it. So now we don't even have blood. So yeah. And it's a lifelong thing. It's there are tournaments. There are all sorts of levels of fencing, from recreational, which is what I do now. I used to compete and up into the Olympics. So, which is where these two are headed.
Where was the tournament held, Kate?
It was in Ventura. There's a little fencing school called Points West, and it was it's going to be annual. And we were looking for something close for the first time, so this was ideal, because you do a lot of, if you're competing, you do a lot of driving and sitting around.
How
Sorry?
many students are currently enrolled in both classes?
Well, there are actually 3 classes. There's a beginning class, which just has a couple kids at any time, and then the intermediate class, and then there's the adult class. Only that just means it's people who can't come as early as these guys. And I think there are like 11 right now.
Okay.
So that some come and go. We have, the majority have been fencing for a long time with us. And then we occasionally get adults who want to try it, and I would encourage anybody who is interested. And then also adults, we have an adult who's an older guy, about my age, who fenced before, and he wanted a place to fence. So, yeah.
And what is the age range for the?
The youngest right now is 9, maybe, or 10.
Yeah, let me see what our guide says, what we,
Yeah, what we actually.
I think it's 9, the beginning is 9.
Yeah.
I think 9 to 16, but.
And then 9 to 68. So,
Yeah, really, 9 to 68,
Yeah, yeah.
But the youth classes are, 9 to 16, and then adults, 17.
Right,
older.
right.
Yeah.
So, but we're flexible, because we have 2 fencers, also a brother and sister, who've been fencing for a really long time, and the class starts at 4:30, but they can't come till 5, so we've sort of moved things later.
Did they compete too?
No, they didn't. They're wanting to,
Yeah.
and I think they should, because they're definitely ready. So, yeah.
So does everybody do you buy your own equipment? Do you provide
When you start, we provide the equipment, and we have a lot of equipment and a lot of really good equipment, and we've got boxes so we can score electronically. So it feels very like if you were in a big fencing studio. But as people come along, a lot of times they want to buy their own equipment. And, when I started fencing, the first thing I bought was a mask, because you'd get a mask that some kid had been coughing in all day. And so, but yes, no, we did. And the other thing is these cotton duck jackets. These ones are so much nicer. And there are jackets that we have that are for boys or girls, and they're for right or left-handed people. So they've got all kinds of extra padding and things that mostly, but there are people who've been using our equipment from the beginning. So, yeah.
So you guys have, your blades are a little bit different? Are they all identical, or do you have different preferences that you pick?
There are different grips. They're all exactly the same length. But there's something called a French grip, which is just really a stick. I mean, that's how it started out, with you holding this thing with a straight grip. And there are people who still use that. And then there are 1,000 different kinds of pistol grips. These are called Viscontis, and there's the Bukovic, yes, and a Russian grip, which is just a giant piece of metal that comes down that you hold on to, and all kinds of permutations of that. So, and then people who are really into it, it's like they saw off part of it, and so, yeah.
Customize.
Customize, yeah.
Do
Huh? paint their masks, yes, yes.
Do lefties fence with their left hand?
Yes, and
How does that?
yes, there's a lefty right there. And yes, and it's a real advantage to be left-handed. So
Same
why is
advice.
it an advantage to be left-handed?
It is an advantage to be left-handed because most people are used to fencing right-handed people, so when you're facing them, and my weapon's on the opposite side, so it messes people up.
And she's used to fencing right-handed people, so, and that's most of who you're going to fence. But at any time, probably the top 10 fencers in the world, probably 6 of them are left-handed.
Oh, wow.
So it's a real advantage. So, and being tall and having long arms and being strong is an advantage, but you can work around it, so.
Great.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Any
really
other
good.
questions from the commission? Thank you
No.
so much for coming.
And come and see us if you'd like to see. I mean, it's pretty interesting to watch.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
We do
Yeah.
have some great scoring machines too.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
it was
we
actually
do.
a nice donor parent who gave us one of our newer scoring
Yes,
machines.
yes. And then we have another scoring machine that, as somebody said, it was made out of an old B-52.
Yeah, we got it off offline, eBay.
Yeah, right.
And for those people who can't do it on a Tuesday, are there other options?
I would love to have other options. We don't seem to be able to make time. I think it would be nice to do it twice a week.
You're talking about, there's not enough space.
There's too much going on at the rec department for us to be able to get the space. And we're in the multi-purpose room and we need that
Yeah.
The length of it.
length.
Yeah.
We need
Yeah.
something like the Chaparral Auditorium too. is that
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yep, yep. Uh-huh. Well, somebody mentioned I'm taking pottery at Nordhoff,
Nordhoff,
and that the wrestling room would be ideal.
Rest-
So,
Okay.
just saying.
Just putting that out there.
That's right, just
Yeah.
putting it out there.
Marketing,
Okay.
baby.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, thank
We'll
you.
talk about
Thank you
that,
very
Kate.
much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you,
Great,
Kate.
thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming up.
The next item is the police department report. Captain Freihoff was going to try to get someone here, but it doesn't look like it happened.
Not at this moment. I think the folks that they do have coming to our meetings are also on duty, are on call, so who knows, they may show as we go along.
Yeah.
And speaking of, Mr. Grant, I told him he would be safe to arrive at 6:30, so
Okay.
that's why he is not
Great.
present right now. I
No
thought we
worries.
were going to have our police report and our presentation that would run us to about 6:30,
Okay.
but anyway.
Okay. And
He does plan on, he will definitely be here, Greg will.
right. So, and Captain Freihoff did say to both Sophocles and myself that he would likely be here at the December meeting. So if you have questions, get them ready. I asked him about that corner of Sarzati Park that we're talking about, the multi-sport courts, and just like because I know it has a pretty bad reputation. I was curious, like, have there been incidences lately, or anyway? So
Yeah,
if
it
you
is a
guys
bit
have
of a
questions.
hangout, hidden.
Yeah.
It creates
Kinda
a space
corner.
that you can't see.
Is that because
Right.
of the Quonset huts there and they're
Yeah.
hidden from view?
I think it's part of it. It's just away from the road. It's away from our office. It's
Yeah.
just a good
You can't
place
see in the
to.
corner.
It's
Yeah.
been
Good
that
place
way.
to hide.
It's been that way since I was 12 years old.
Yeah,
That's been the spot.
yeah.
I've just,
Well, it
We're gonna
still
do
kind
something
of
about
is the
that.
spot.
it's about time.
Yeah, we're gonna do something about it.
All right. Well, we do have Councilwoman Francina here. Thank you. And we did promise her that we would adjust the agenda a little bit to accommodate her. So, Councilwoman Francina, if you have any comments for us, that'd be great. And then there was one discussion item in particular that I thought it'd be good for you to participate in, which is we have it under the 8C, identifying topics of interest for the ad hoc committee reports in December. I thought that'd be a good item. So, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Let's jump order a little bit.
Yeah, we
here.
can jump, it's to your discretion if you want to, obviously the first two items involve Greg.
Right, and then when Mr. Grant gets here, hopefully we'll be done with these. Maybe I can introduce 8C a little bit. So,
Do you want to do minutes before we do that?
oh, sure. Okay. So we've got item 7, approval of minutes from the October 5th meeting. Folks had a chance to review those.
Yes.
Okay, any comments on those? Any corrections? All right, do we have a motion to approve them?
I motion to approve the October 5th, 2017 minutes for the Ojai Recreation Commission meeting.
Good,
I will second.
thank you. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. All right,
Motion passes.
very good. Okay,
Yeah, in regard to minutes, you may or may not have noticed, they aren't posted to the website yet, but we will get there, and
I think the last two months aren't posted yet, but I am going to get the links done. I think you guys have been included in an email about that, but I need to just hyperlink them, and then they'll be up on the city website.
yeah, hyperlinking the
Full time.
each one of the minute
timestamps.
timestamps, yeah.
okay, great. So, discussion item 8C, ad hoc committee preparation. So we formed, at our last commission meeting, we formed a bunch of ad hoc committees. And we talked about having updates given by the committee members at our December meeting. So I thought it would be good to spend a little time, I didn't intend this to be a very big discussion, but a little time if you are not one of the committee members, but you have particular kind of questions or things of interest that you'd like the committee to look into, this would be a chance to kind of throw those out so that the committee members have some guidance as well as their own interest to kind of decide what they want to look into. So the committees that we form, the ad hoc committees, there's the Libby Lawn Seating Plan, the Valleywide Parks District, Soul Park, and then the OUSD partnerships.
Sorry, Chair Firestone, I just realized the agendas that I passed out to all the commissioners does not have the different committees on theirs.
But they do on
It's
the
on
minutes.
number
Yeah, so you can look at agenda item number 10.
They're on the minutes from
Oh,
last
they're
month.
on the minutes
Yeah.
from, yeah, but they were supposed to be on this
Yeah,
agenda.
they're in
My-
agenda
My
item
apologies
10.
for that.
Number 10.
Yeah, here, they're there.
Yeah.
Oh, they are?
And-
Oh, sorry,
Good.
they are there,
We're there.
just not in the right place.
So maybe we can start with the Libby Lawn Seating Plan. We've got Commissioners Murphy and Jacobson. Commissioner Jacobson, we signed you up for that.
See that, yeah. Maybe
Yeah.
I shouldn't have approved it. That's all.
Right. So we thought that would be the one you'd be most
That's fine.
interested in, but if you want to switch.
No, it's
we're-
fine. It's got a lot of logistics in it.
Okay. So maybe we can start with that one. If folks have particular kind of questions you'd like these guys to look into or concerns, now's our opportunity. We did have a presentation from a couple of the council members, Haney and Wyrick,
Mhm.
on proposed plan,
Yeah, I still have
For
the
that.
material for that.
that lawn area. So any questions, what you'd like the committee to look into?
The Libby Bowl Committee is also still meeting, and it might be good if you guys, timing-wise, it probably won't work for you, possibly come to one of those meetings and get some feedback from them on.
When are they?
They're Tuesday mornings, every other Tuesday morning at 8 a.m.
Nope.
Yeah, okay.
Working world, it doesn't work.
Yeah, yeah. Anything in mornings is dead.
Okay,
I just want to mention.
then I'll take back to the committee that we formed, that committee, and see if maybe they want to set up a time that'll work for both groups.
Okay, staff, at our last staff meeting,
Uh-huh.
were mentioning that they really wanted to get a recommendation from the committee on the seating plan options. And
Staff, I'm
our city
unclear who we're
staff,
talking
our
about.
city staff
Okay.
are looking to, as soon as you can, a recommendation from that committee, either to this body or to the Libby Bowl Committee, as to what seating plan they're
My
leaning
understanding was that forming this was an opportunity to, before making a recommendation, to try and get the public more involved in the idea and bring in more feedback and understanding of the project itself before making a recommendation. So I'm a little confused.
Okay, well, whatever, sure,
Yeah.
whatever that process is, does that mean, that committee getting an outreach moving forward, maybe,
I think they're
or whatever
hoping
it
that
is?
this commission has formed a committee that will work on identifying what the plans are, communicating with the public, trying to get the feedback from the public about how they use the lawn, how they'd like to use the lawn, you know, all that kind of information, and using this committee to help do that work. That's the understanding that I
Sure,
have.
okay, but just trying to move that along as soon as possible.
And Commissioner Jacobson and I can do this by phone or by email and come up with a plan on how we can get that information out to the public and let them reply back. So that they can have access to the, I think there's two options that were left, if I remember right.
Yeah, 100% sure of that,
Yeah.
but.
I think the starting, from my perspective, the starting point would be to meet with Haney, Wyrick, or with the Libby Bowl Committee, and do that together as one presentation of here's where we are, here's what we have. And then I would think that from there, then the committee could take over on working to get it out to the public and working on getting feedback and input.
Sure, I'm just,
Because what
just,
you're
I'm
asking
just
for is
sending
a
a,
decision on a plan, but the whole point of, I think, forming the
No, no, no,
committee.
that's not what we're
No,
asking
no,
at all.
I'm going
Yeah.
back at Sophocles. What I'm hearing is that staff wants a recommendation on what to do, but this is
Yeah.
more of a process-oriented committee to look at engaging the public before we make a decision on direction.
sure, I'll
Right.
That's
go
my
with that.
understanding.
I'll go with your interpretation. My only strong push is to get that, whatever the process is, to get it moving as quickly as possible.
Let's, you guys are the committee, but I'm on the other committee, so maybe we can correspond on how to get that worked out so that they both get together and everyone's on the same page. At a time that is not 8 AM in the morning.
And
On a
s- and
Tuesday.
You know, staff can assist as far as the community outreach goes.
I was gonna say, when you guys get to that point, I'm more than happy to assist you guys getting the word out through social media, flyers, website, whatever you guys wanna do. I'm more than happy to assist you guys with that.
Email.
Right, because I think, I thought we'd only seen one option, which was the most recent.
Well, we've seen a couple of
presentation.
iterations.
Okay, we
but
saw
we're
an
having the most
iteration
recent
before that, yeah.
iteration.
Right,
Which even what we saw, I believe, was different than what they intended to do,
Mhm.
based on some changes.
okay. Yeah, and so, right, we formed this committee because we want to kind of do some research and do some outreach and understand what
Yeah.
the people want.
You're definitely right about that. That was the intention of the committee.
So it won't be next month that they know. You can tell them that.
Okay. All right.
I don't know how we would do it by next month, but
Yeah, I think there was some hope for that, but maybe I didn't explain to them the purpose of our committee and what it was intended.
okay.
Yeah, but it'll be fine.
Yeah, and the staff now has some committee member contacts.
Right.
Yeah, so
To work with.
lines of communication can be a little more direct. Councilwoman Francina, any interests or questions on your part with the Libby lawn seating? Are you familiar with the plan that Councilman Haney and Wyrick put together?
No, I'm actually not familiar with it,
Okay,
to be honest.
so,
I didn't even know there was a plan.
uh-huh.
I mean, I thought the seating was arranged already.
Yeah, so this is regarding the lawn in back of the seating, and the line of sight currently is blocked by the railings behind the seating. So there's discussion about raising the elevation of the lawn area so that it's more useful as seating for events where you can actually see the events.
Well, he's a landscaper, you gotta handle that. So there's not gonna be like a mudslide or
Right, so he's put some work into a design and drafting of that design, which he presented to our commission.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay, so that's going on. Anything else on that one? No. Okay, so the next one is the Valleywide Parks District, and I think I've emailed all of you, but we didn't make an announcement that Commissioner Dutter has resigned. So, sorry to interject that here, but he was on the Valleywide Parks District. The advice from the city was for an ad hoc committee not to have members of the public on the committee, but definitely he can provide input to Commissioner Intner. So we do have another spot there if someone else wanted to join that commission. I think that'd make sense.
Are you interested?
Uh,
I only ask because I think we could, it might work to accomplish some
Right.
other together
yeah.
with some.
Yes,
Okay.
I agree. I would be interested if that's okay with everyone.
Sure.
Second.
I mean, we're going to start, we are in the process of recruiting our two
Right,
vacancies.
yeah.
And then
Change
maybe
your
at that time.
composition at any time.
Right,
Yeah.
and at
Yeah.
that time, we might be able to
Okay.
switch things around a bit.
Okay. So if that's all right, do we need to make a motion on that? I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Okay. So I will be the second
Okay.
committee member there. Questions? I mean, I think this one is, there sounds like there's a lot of research to do to understand, what types of options are available as far as kind of a structure, and then just kind of what portion of the valley are we talking about? For folks not familiar with this, there's been interest in creating a parks district that goes beyond just the city limits, but encompasses the whole valley, because effectively the city is running a valley-wide parks district with our programming and the use of our parks. So, what the legal process would be to create a district, understanding the economics of our current setup and how that might change with the parks district. I don't know if other people have other questions or concerns.
I think we should probably talk to the city attorney too. That's a good meeting that you should probably put on the book. I think number one would be whether or not it's whether it's legal, whether we're overstepping our bounds, whether it's within our scope to even consider such a thing. Of course, the next question would be the money.
Well, I think figuring out where the benefit is. Is there a true benefit to that, or is there not? Since to your point, we're running it now anyway.
Mm-hmm.
What's the benefit to actually creating that district or leaving it as is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is tax money in that regard.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But again, number one, I think should be on that books is whether or not we can actually legally do it.
Mm-hmm.
Once that question's answered, I guess it's up to you guys.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, anything else?
Good.
All right. So we got two more to go, and then Mr. Grant, we'll get to your items. Okay, Soul Park. So we've got Commissioners Murphy and Gilbert, and I think Rec Department staff on this one.
I think that's probably me. Yeah.
Yeah, we nominated you while you were out.
And my thinking on that is to try to nail down exactly what they mean by incorporating Soul Park, because one of the conversations was the golf course, and the other part was the park in the back of the golf course. So is it both of those things? Is it one of those things, or either of those things? What exactly is it that we're trying to accomplish there as well?
I think The discussion as I had understood it in the past was the park itself, not the golf course side.
Right.
And this discussion had started with potential uses and what would be the benefit of it and what could we see coming out of it, was where we had started. And I do have notes from that meeting that we had last year. We could start there.
That was the meeting with the county?
No.
No, okay.
That was a meeting that myself, Commissioner Dutter, and Councilmember Haney had at the park.
Because I think at one of our meetings, and I think it was Councilman Wyrick that brought up that there was a new lessee at the golf course, and somehow that was going to tie in, and that's where it got muddled for me.
Yeah, that's like a business
Different issue.
opportunity direction that I didn't understand.
Yeah, so I'd like to get that part cleared up and then move forward.
I think what's in our purview is the park.
I agree.
Yeah, and just the, how we could use it.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
But
Right. And
when that was brought up, that just kind of threw a hand grenade in the whole subject.
right,
so.
and the message we got from the county recently was that they're open to ideas for
Correct.
Yeah,
more city
partnership.
use of
Yeah.
the park.
So simplified, can we, I guess, yes. Should we?
Right.
What kind of use can we get out of it, and what's the
How? Identify what-
what's the liability?
And identify what those uses are, yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
I mean, what's the advantage of the county? Are we gonna be putting money into that park for infrastructure? Is that gonna be our responsibility? Is that gonna be a part of the agreement? What kind of liabilities involved? And are we using their insurance, or are we gonna be using our insurance? Simple questions, I suppose.
I think also establishing communications with the county
Right.
people. I don't know who they are, but
Start the discussion.
right.
Yes, because no one is still with us who was at the last meeting with the county.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
Well,
Were you at that meeting?
Well, I was at the meeting Allison's talking about with Haney and Dutter, but
But
I
not-
haven't been to any meetings with county officials
Okay,
at
all
all.
right.
So
That was Commissioner
that-
Dutter.
that would need-
Just
yeah.
the main hand in that.
we'd have to reach out to our ex-commissioner.
Okay.
He's around.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, anything else on that one? No. And then the last one, the OUSD partnerships, myself and Commissioner Intner.
We just got a new one tonight, a new idea.
Yeah, fencing. Be awesome. So I think we talked about this at the joint meeting. We had some ideas. I think the intent now is to kind of just brainstorm what possible partnership opportunities there are. So I don't know if there's any other questions or.
Seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It
Well,
would be nice to do more adult classes at Nordoff. Just,
Yeah.
I know we talked about chaparral just now and fencing, but I did reach out to Kate Thomas, and she's interested. She's just got too much on her plate right now, but I think going forward, maybe at the start of the next fall school year, she
That'd be
She
great.
may jump in and offer classes, because she's been talking with our pottery instructor,
Mhm.
Gray Duncan, and he's mentioned how it's worked out
mhm.
nicely for him. So,
Okay, great. Councilwoman Francina, any questions from you on any of these committees?
No, not so far, thank you.
Okay. Would you like to give a report to us on anything going on with the council, or if you have any questions for our commission?
I don't have anything yet, no.
Okay.
Do you have any questions?
Anyone? Sounds like a no. Okay. So I think we're all good. So the next item, we have Mr. Grant here. So we can go to the Public Works Report, which is item number 6, and then the discussion items as well, 8A and 8B. So thanks for coming.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, good evening to everybody. Yeah, for Public Works report, I was trying to think of, Sophocles, help me out here, for activity, Public Works related at the parks. You know, we've certainly had a lot of events at the Bowl, and we've had some issues with some vandalism up on the, maybe some homeless activity up on the roof of the Bowl. So I don't know if you were aware, on the back side of the Libby bowl, we actually took that patio that was there and we expanded it because it was the perfect railing to hop on the roof, you know, the way the 2x6 rail around the patio was. So we expanded that in the back to make it so it wasn't so easy to hop on the roof. So there was kind of a minor variation back there. I think as far as, that's going to help. I think there's 3 ways to get the roof. One is that railing, the easiest, and there's one that's a tree that we're cutting back also. And then we're also looking at, I think that one that's difficult is some pretty athletic people up front jump and grab the front beams of the bowl and they can hook up there and get around. That one's a little more tricky. So well, that's not easy.
Sounds like
fix.
parkour. Maybe
That's-
maybe some of our parkour students.
Some of the gymnasts from the gym program, yeah. So, trying to think of otherwise at Libby Park, or
Sarasoti, I don't know that there's any.
I
just
think you're aware the
over-
Sarasoti, the parking lots were all redone. I'm not sure if we hit that last time, you know. but those-
Restriped, yeah, they're aware, and we just had one of the shade sails in the courtyard changed out. They were all this green, kind of darker green. I don't know what color green you would call it, but hunter green, but they put in a tan sail, and it did actually help lighten up that area because the whole game room was really darkened because of all those monochrome shade sails. But now that did help to put that tan colored shade sail in there, and it added a little more aesthetic.
Right, it was supposed to be
beauty
tri-colored
to
up
it.
originally, and then they came back and fixed that, you know, so, yeah. So I
Yeah.
think, so I think
They're
those.
really nice having those in there.
Mm-hmm. Good, yeah. And so I think that's probably the primary update that I can think of
Sure.
related to parks.
I had a question on Libby Park, the playground mister. I noticed the push button control was switched to a just kind of on-off knob.
Uh-huh.
And I know we talked earlier, it's about 2.5 gallons a minute coming out of the misters.
I think the other one was, I didn't see, I know the lead maintenance guy was proposing that to try it, and I didn't go out and see it myself. But probably last week was a good time to try it out. I'm
'Cause
sure it was used heavily last week.
I've been there a few times since it's been installed, and I noticed that it's left on.
Uh-huh.
An hour, that's like 100 gallons of water, which is pretty significant. So I was wondering if there's any controls in the works to kind of make sure that it's not left on.
Yeah,
if it was
I'll have
left
to check on that. I know
overnight.
they were proposing something that was on a timer,
Okay.
and that they would, that seemed to be the issues they were having with that push button, keep getting broken, that to have it on just as a timer during the peak of the day, kind of like from 10 to 5 or 6, they thought it would save some water, and they were going to try that out. But I didn't realize it's just on the entire time. I'll check into that.
Well, there's a knob, so you can turn it on or turn it off, and kids turn it on and
Yeah.
run away, and it's on, and you can see the mulch in that area.
All right, so it doesn't self-close, yeah. It's
Stopping,
actually
no.
staying on until, someone turns it back off,
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I feel partly responsible for it being left on because I was one of the parents that
Thanks.
complained, because during the heat of summer, I came almost, twice a week with my little granddaughter, and it was often not on, and I would see all the disappointed kids, and so finally Greg left, and I think it was appropriate during the heat, because that's all they had.
Right.
The pool, it made the park bearable in over 100 degrees weather.
Absolutely, and that was the intent of it, and it's awesome. Yeah,
Awesome.
the kids love it. My concern is just like if no one's using it and it's on, it is
Yeah, like this
actually
week it
a
should be
significant amount of
off.
water.
So not knowing the history of the button didn't work.
Yeah,
Right.
it
Moved
wasn't
on
there
from the
an
button.
issue That it was connected to another system, a sprinkler system or something?
Yeah, we'll check on that, I'll follow up, because, ideally, the push button was the way to go.
Yeah.
And that seems like we could make it work, but it seemed to be just having, and right, it had, even when the button worked, it still, the gravity fed, and it kind of peed out of the sides until the gravity fed out of the water. So they put in little check valves, and that seemed to complicate the way it worked a little bit.
Maybe we could put like a little basin by next summer, put something underneath, and then there'd be like a little kitty.
Yeah, right, okay, just take advantage of
water.
it,
Uh,
yeah.
There might be other kind of time controls, like, I'm thinking of like the knobs, like on lights in a bathroom where you can set
Like
it,
the
you
ones we
know.
have for the lights for Sarasota.
Yeah,
It's
like
slowly
maybe you
clicks
could,
down.
exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's.
And water.
Er,
That's
Right.
the only thing about anything
I
you're
know,
trying to do, you're
electricity,
adding water. That's the only.
But
yeah,
I'll
but
follow
maybe
up
they
on
make
it.
them for plumbing
Yeah, but for plumbing
fixtures.
fixtures,
Yeah.
It seems like that was one quick fix, but I'll, you know, I'm not sure if they're waiting for a different part. I forget what happened to that. So
Okay.
I'll follow up on it.
All right.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Mm.
But yeah, the playground's looking great. I think you guys are maintaining it really nicely. I spend a lot of time there.
Mm-hmm. Great. Okay.
Going back to I wonder if there's a way to make it motion activated.
Well, that was a proposal. I know that we put a motion activator on the sound arch going into the bowl.
Right.
And that gadget seemed to work pretty well. So that, but that is more complicated. I think that needed an electrical source too.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. It sure seems like a button would work. I mean, those are pretty vandal-resistant push-button faucets in most toilets, restrooms, public restrooms. So I think we'll probably pursue that again, but this was kind of maybe a quick fix to get us to the end of the year.
Sure.
Because we weren't having much luck making that other one work.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? Public
no,
Works?
that's it.
Okay. So then we had two discussion items to go over with you. The first was the multi-sport courts. So now that we have the Sarasota Park Master Plan approved, the element from that we're focusing on is the multi-sport courts, and want to kind of know how to go about, all the research we can do and planning to move the process forward to a proposal to the city. So we thought it'd be good to work that out with you, as far as the technical work that needs to be done. And
So I guess, as I recall, at that point, there was some discussion that was going to be had with the master plan developer, that they knew some people. So I think Sophocles had contacted them and was trying to get connected with people who either do the design or contractors, so we could, if it's a simple design, handle it ourselves, one of the two. So I don't know if there was much headway on that or not.
Just a little bit. So I did talk with Community Works. They do, it's not their company, but they work with a company, Pacific Tennis Courts, but they do multi-use courts. So we're going to talk next week about the costs associated with that. But you can go onto their website, pacifictenniscourts.com. There's another website that I just researched on my own, sportcourt.com. And that's their non-concrete type surfacing. And it was very interesting. They talk about the benefits of not going with concrete, of course, because that's what their company sells. But you might want to check out that surfacing and that type of court. And I did go through their process of getting a quote online from them. So we'll see what I get back from that. And
Sophocles,
then
do you think that's kind of like
what I
a...
sent to you by email, this Lake Hold company out of Indiana, and they do give some pretty detailed cost analysis on that last page. I mean, you can go on their website. It's right on the front of the page here, and at the bottom of the front page with a contact number if we want to pursue. So there's just going online. There's several companies out there that will do multi-sport courts, but not all of them are concrete based either. So we have some options, but it does seem that a lot of them are in the $65,000 to $70,000 range if we're per court, when we're talking the cost behind it, and that estimate is consistent with what Community Works had presented in their estimated costs. So it's just a matter of what do we, I think some of the things we might want to talk about tonight are the specs behind it. Yeah, fencing, and prior to the meeting, Commissioner Murphy was talking about, do we want, how tall do we want the fencing? I don't know if this is the forum where we want to discuss it, Are the gates going to be locked? If we do fencing, are we going to lock the park or lock the facility? What are the dimensions? I had sent you an email on potential dimensions of the park. Do we want to make it a basketball court first, is what I understood. And fortunately, the basketball court is similar in dimension to the futsal court. There's probably a foot, 1 or 2 feet difference actually, between a youth futsal court and a high school basketball court. They're almost exactly the same dimensions. So that's what this is. Again, if you guys want to hash it out now, like, hey, we'd like a 6-foot fence, and we want the facility locked, and so on and so on.
Well, one of the things that I kind of discovered in conversations was Oak Park High School has a couple of multi-sport courts set up, and theirs has a fence and locks, because their concern was bicycles, skateboards, roller skates, all are incredibly damaging to the surface. So the only way to keep those out is to have a locked area. So they're only usable during certain times. And maybe that's done through the rec department, maybe it's not, but they run their whole rec basketball program all on these multi-court surfaces.
Is the finish similar to a tennis court?
It is and it isn't. There's several options on how these can be done, and Sophocles mentioned one earlier. There's some interlocking systems. My personal take, and it's just my own opinion, is that a concrete surface is probably not the way to go. Just from an injury standpoint and resiliency standpoint, but a lot of that's going to revolve around what the costs are and what the likelihood is of getting those costs approved and what's the best way to go. I mean, we're still in the investigation stage of the whole thing, but.
Just because I don't know, a tennis court is concrete with a coating over it?
Correct, more or less.
Okay. All right, so what we have, because we have those open and they are not fenced or locked, just for point of reference on.
And they're
surfacing.
resurfaced almost every year. And that's what we're trying to stay away from.
Okay.
Is having to do that. I think Ojai Valley School, the lower campus, has some multi-sport courts as well.
Are those ones on the front by the road?
Right, my friend Gary Gartrell, who is one of the lead guys there, I'm going to talk with him as well and see what their costs were and what their maintenance is, and just at least try to get some idea of what these things are like. So we're going in with our eyes open and not kind of just throwing darts at a board.
So the lake hold that you brought in that showed an example, it looks like whatever they do over different surfaces. They do it over asphalt, they do it over concrete. So theirs is, you could do it more than one way. I wonder in some ways with the cost of these, if there's a phasing option.
Like, do they asphalt or concrete now?
Do the concrete,
Yeah.
start to get it set up and have enough money to then upgrade to the surface. I'm just looking at it from a long-term, getting some use, but getting where we want to be versus waiting till we have all of it covered.
Well, and I'm wondering too, and I think, I don't want to speak for Greg, but I think your point was maybe there's some of that stuff we can do ourselves, the concrete pad and such, and then bring in another company to do I don't know. I mean, I think cost is going to dictate a lot of what we're able to do.
I was even thinking design, yeah. We ought to talk to people and see, and then there's probably certain companies that are, sometimes landscape architects take up things like a lot of parks and cemeteries and side deals. So, yeah, whether we actually hire somebody like that can be a good chunk of the money we have available,
Yeah.
or whether we can kind of, like we're saying, kind of touching on right now, figure it out ourselves what the material is and what kind of fencing we want and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we can reach out. Now that you've mentioned Oak Park, that's easy. Well, easy enough. I think it would be easy enough to contact someone there
Yeah.
and get
Some history on their
information from
project.
them,
Mhm.
and even take a field trip out there and meet with someone that will give us some details and information and the experience they had or they're having with. It sounds like they are successful, or
Very. Yeah, I mean,
and they're multi-use courts, like
they
do-
mainly basketball for them,
Yeah.
but it's a multi-court surface, which really means it's an outdoor surface
Yeah.
more than anything
Yeah.
else.
Yeah, I wonder what
but
material they used. if
That's the information we need to dig up, and that's what I got, because as you know, my son coaches basketball, and that's where I got
Yeah.
this from, was he's been part of that process up there a little bit.
Okay.
I'd be happy to tag along if
Yeah,
you're planning
I'd like
a
to
trip
tag
to
I'll,
Oak
I'll
Park.
let you know when I'm going to make a field trip out that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. While we have Mr. Grant here, anything else that you'd recommend that we do in our research to help the process?
I guess the last part would be the siting out there. I think there was a site location on the master plan, but to consider, because it seemed like, I don't know if it got into the drip line of any of those trees over there, but there's really that huge, one of them's a heritage, that huge oak out in the field area there.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the code says drip line of the tree plus 5 feet. So technically, if we go into that area, that requires, further analysis, so on. But we want to be careful and cautious of those trees out there. They're all
So
doing
that's
well.
probably another good field trip.
Mhm.
Well, it is,
Well,
yeah.
with
if-
Greg out there and.
Get out there and scope.
Really, yeah.
Once I guess it might be good to, like saying, you'll be out scoping and figuring out dimensions, and then we just bring a tape and get a very rough idea. Hey, is there plenty of room here, or we really got to squeeze it in? And then how much prep is there too?
To do to get it ready, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
and I can get you those dimensions. It's basically basketball court, a high school basketball court is 50 by 80.
Are we talking about,
50 by 80 feet.
were we going to do one or two?
Two. Well,
Yeah.
okay, so you
Uh-huh.
want to just double that.
Right.
As far as, and there's going to be some overage, of course, on the sidelines, baselines. You're going to
Right.
go out 5 or 6 feet on both
So you could
sides.
say 130 by 100.
And in
Right.
between,
Exactly.
I looked at, one picture
Almost
we got long
exactly.
ago was seating in the middle and
Mm-hmm.
the lower fence. I don't know if that's feasible, but I certainly like that as a design element between
Yeah.
the two versus a huge fence in between and two separate, courts.
mhm.
Even like the tennis courts down below, they have a seating area, and then there's, the next kind of, I think,
Oh.
maybe not concrete, and I don't know how you do it, but I think ideally that would be a really nice way to develop it so that it's easier for users for practices and things like that.
From what I remember of Ojai Valley School at the lower campus, they have the court side by side, and there's a half fence.
Correct.
Right, exactly,
I-
yes.
With seating,
with seating.
seating in between the two courts.
So
Well, yeah,
whatever
I-
we do, I hope we plan for that so that we can
Yeah.
do
Yeah,
that.
I don't, that's something we can talk about, but I don't know if public seating between the two or just benches for players
Just, yeah.
is what's
Yeah, I
necessary.
think
You don't
it's-
want
Benches for
public
players.
seating between the two.
No, I think
Right,
it's just
a-
benches. I think
Right,
they're
I agree.
small
Okay.
benches.
Right. So it sounds like though the
worked it
first
over
step
a
is
while.
figuring out what is the maximum space we have to
Yeah.
work with,
Yeah.
given the layout there,
Mhm.
and then we can think about design
Yeah.
options.
Agreed.
That is a big factor.
A good starting point,
Those
yes.
dimensions
Yeah.
and how it impacts the parking lot too. It might require us to take some space even in that parking lot, but we'll
And
We'll
also
invite you
the-
out there and do some measurements.
The,
Right.
the baseball field, right? Because it
The T-ball.
kind of limits the
That tee,
outfield.
it
That's
Yeah.
eliminated in the plan.
In the plan, it moves to the front.
goes to the other side.
Right, but that is encroaching on the outfield of that east
Correct.
baseball.
We'll have to be
field.
cautious
It-
how far into the outfield
You're
we're
right,
going.
it could. We kind of we just did our own little rudimentary stepping it off, pacing it. And it comes close to the field, and that's where fencing comes in.
On that
Once
side.
again,
Right.
on that one side, you might have to put a
But yes, it,
8-foot, 10-foot fence
I think-
for fly balls. No one's gonna hit a fly ball out that far.
Yeah.
But, even a long hit could,
right. So we need to know kind of how deep does the outfield need to be, because that's a constraint on
Mhm.
how big the courts could be.
it could be, potentially. Yeah.
So sighting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So can we set up some time with Mr. Grant to?
And I'd like
out
to
and-
join, if you're going to end up going to, I don't know if you're going to have a subcommittee or whatever, but whoever goes to the visit Oak Park, and if you hit OVS or something, I'd be glad to join you on that. It'd be interesting
Okay.
to see roughly what it looks like, what kind of materials and so on they're using.
I
So we
think
can do
Oak
it, we
Park
can
would be
do
the
a
one-
same-day trip,
Yeah.
OVS and Oak Park
OVS
all in one day.
and, yeah, or if you can't do both, do OVS and,
Oak Park.
Facility the same day.
Right, okay.
I think Oak Park is the one that's more up to date on the surfaces and stuff they've used. Ojai Valley School's been there
Yeah,
for
it
quite
has,
a while.
it has.
So if we're trying to get the best possible outcome, I would suggest Oak Park first, and then go from there.
Sure. Okay, well then, I'll do the duty of arranging with Oak Park, and then I'll throw it out to, well, I don't know if it's appropriate for everyone.
But then separately is the sighting, which is hopefully something you do before you
Which-
even get to Oak Park or OVS.
It seems like seeing it first would be great, right?
See it
To
first?
get a
Okay.
feel for how big is it, and what's
Yep.
rough dimensions, and how much room do you need around the court, and that kind of thing. Isn't the futsal, don't you tend to put the fencing really tight to the court on futsal?
Yeah,
For the, yes.
yeah.
I mean, right at the limit of the court, or, I mean, that seems like a conflict with basketball where you've got to have a
Well,
space.
but the futsal court can be bigger,
Yeah.
so you could have the basketball court that has the narrower dimensions, and so
With a
the
narrower
fence
lining.
is not right at the edges, but the futsal court is marked larger, so
Oh,
it does
right.
go up.
Okay, so it fits within the futsal court, and then you
The
got.
futsal,
fencing,
it's
right?
flexible. There's
Uh-huh.
a range of sizes that are kind of okay.
No
for-
matter what, we'll have to make room for goals, and,
yeah.
there's a lot, I don't know how these multi-use courts
why
were
it's
set up
important to go-
there.
right.
But
Mhm.
I've seen photos where there's the basketball hoop and the futsal goal
All in one.
all in one,
Right.
right on the court. It stays there the whole time.
Wow, I don't
So,
It's permanent.
That would
Yeah.
even work.
They have
Check it
in
out
a-
online.
Yeah,
It's,
I
it's,
will.
it's interesting. You just have the goal, the basketball goal sticking out even further.
Right. But we know from playing basketball that you oftentimes run through the goal and
Yeah.
through the,
Yeah,
that's where I'm concerned about
Yeah.
injury and.
yeah, check out some of the
Yeah,
things.
I'll take a
Some of the things or designs online.
So, field trip and sighting meeting.
Yeah, and I expressed interest, but if other commissioners are interested,
I think we have a quorum issue, especially with our numbers at the moment.
right. So I'm saying I don't have to be there if
Oh, no, I'm
other,
good.
okay.
You can always get
What's-
around those issues by just announcing that
Special
you're going to
meeting.
meet here and drive on the trip, and it's all, if, I guess the trick is if some public wanted to attend, they could basically go. I mean, I guess you've got the
We could
vans, and load them up, right?
could
So
open it up to the
it's-
public.
It's kind of unlikely we have a hard time usually getting people to attend stuff, so.
If it's a Wednesday or
Yeah.
Thursday, I can do it.
Yeah, I'll reach out.
I don't understand.
So
I'll
you-
reach out to you guys.
You can reach
they're
out to see
talking
who's
about a
coming, and
Brown
then that will
Act.
depend on how we have to do it.
There could be a Brown Act issue for
So what you
everyone.
could do is you ask who wants to go, set a date, and if you get more people than a quorum, then you do a special meeting, and you just say that this is what you're doing at your special meeting,
Right.
if everybody
I-
wants to come. And if not, if you don't have a quorum, you don't have to do that.
Right, yeah.
So if you just
I'll
set a
cross
date.
that bridge if we get to it as far as having,
Right.
Brown Act issues, and if we do, then I'll
Well,
get
yeah,
advice on, I'll be advised on how to,
pick some dates, see who's interested, and
around
then
it,
you'll know.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You just call a special meeting and announce it
Yeah.
and post it, yeah, right.
All right.
I'll do that.
And
Sooner rather than later.
and Wednesdays and, what were you saying, Pat?
Wednesdays and Thursdays are
Wednesdays
my
and
days
Thursdays.
off, so
Okay,
those
good.
are the
Okay.
days for me.
So shoot for a Wednesday or a Thursday.
Afternoon, I'm assuming, or it doesn't matter. to
Ping
you
pong in the
since
morning,
it's off.
field trip in the
Ping pong afternoon. You say, the same with you, Wednesdays and Thursdays?
Wednesdays I'm fairly flexible, but yeah, I think Wednesdays or Thursdays would work for me.
Okay,
It'd be great if we could meet with the staff there.
To hear about their
Well,
experiences.
yeah, oh, absolutely.
I
Yeah,
think would
I'll
be key.
get your availability, and then I'll
Okay,
reach out to
great.
them.
Okay.
Just
Thank you.
curious on a side note, do we have a base map for that park? A CAD base map, a DWG file or something
No,
that's been designed up? We have nothing.
we don't
I saw
have,
the- I
Not
saw
that
the
I'm
everything we
aware-
worked
not
on
that I
with
know
the,
of.
all we have is what we worked on for the master plan, which
Right.
wasn't,
Was
there
that
was no,
Revit drawing, or was it?
they just took an aerial and
We have a
plopped stuff
Google
on it.
Maps
That's all it is.
photo.
We haven't done any survey work, is
Right.
what I'm trying to get at. I can't come up with the
I only
word.
ask because
No,
it would be
not that I'm aware of.
We need to do it.
It would take 1 minute to decide whether it would fit and where it would fit and how it would fit.
No, we don't have
If
anything
somebody
that
wanted to
shows
volunteer to
us.
create one, I mean,
That would be too easy.
I've got a wheel and a tape measure. I suppose I can do it.
Because one of the things we talked about is at some point you'd need a survey of the park with
Right.
any of these projects.
A proper
to cite
survey.
everything,
Yeah.
which we don't have.
Okay.
at this point.
I think we do have aerial photograph maps that are pretty accurate, and I don't know if they use that for the master plan or not, but they're pretty darn accurate, and we can superimpose rough property boundaries and stuff like that. So we've used that, I guess, more on the north side when we did
There
the
were
shelters and all
certainly
that.
some questions on the south side by the parking lot. There's some areas that are, even just looking at it, it's not quite clear.
Mm-hmm. But it is, I mean, I think a lot of it is when you get to the trees, you know, how it all fits in between the trees and the Quonset hut and the parking lot. So it's going to be more of the field dimensions out there. So as long as we're far enough away, but at one point or another, it would have to go on a plan. Is that your expertise?
I work in civil engineering.
Oh, right.
So I do plenty of CAD, so I can probably not survey a base map, but I can make a rough base map. And take measurements in an afternoon and probably get it done in a week.
Yeah, we can cross that bridge one point or another. We do have a budget this year, and if we need to do some field survey and flip it to drawings and all that, we can start moving that direction. If you're inclined to help, that's great. Otherwise, we can get into it.
We'll talk about it then, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
While we're still talking about Sarasota, can I ask a question? One of the things that we identified in that plan is that parking lot on that side. Is there any way to get rid of the old trash bin containment area that we don't use at all? It's because it would make that parking lot so much nicer to go in and out of, and I think safer if we got rid of that. And we know ultimately it needs to go for the plan.
Mm-hmm.
Are there kinds of ways to start picking off some of those projects where we know that we're going to ultimately need to clear those out, and they're not really helping us now? They're more of a
I know we
eyesore.
considered it when we did the parking lot.
I know. I brought it up then because I
And
was
it
hoping
was,
we could do it.
You know, it's kind of an effort to rip it and remove it, and it seemed like there was some potential that it might be used based on some things that might happen.
No.
And then, so
Not
if
in the master
it
plan.
gets ripped, then we've got to prep the base, and we already tightened our budget as it was, so
I
we didn't
understand.
really want to add money to it. So,
But ultimately, it needs
let's
to
try to
go.
remember to look at that when we go by. I'm trying to remember if there's something else related to
When I'd
parking.
asked you about it, one of your concerns was that it's hard to add structures. So you had a concern about removing a structure. If
Right.
down the line we're going to need a structure somewhere.
It's barely a structure, and it's in the way of the design for the park.
Yeah, I think it's good to look at when we're out there, just to say, was there some value to this being out there?
Right, because I mean, it's off topic, but
Sorry.
but definitely
Right. Or is there any benefit to getting rid of it, I guess?
But if
Maybe
you're-
that's where you're going.
If you're out there
yeah.
and discussing some of
Right.
that stuff, I
We'll
think
take
it'd be worth
another look
looking
at
at.
it. Yeah.
I think it was also created a squeeze point. There was a issue for, there was a speed hump, I think, right there that kind of connected to it. And that if that was removed, you're dealing with an easy cut around the speed hump and all that. So right now it's kind of a squeeze point, as I recall, that helps right in that busier area for people cutting through the parking lot.
Depending on how you look at
I
it,
was gonna say,
helps or
depending on how you
hinders.
look at it.
What's that?
Helps or hinders.
Yeah.
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 Mhm.
It would make the parking lot much more functional to not
Yeah.
have it there.
Let's take a look. We
So,
get out
but
there,
yeah,
sure.
we can take
Yeah.
a look at that. Okay.
I'll just throw out to the dual path that we're going to be having around the park too. So there'll be other things to consider when we're
Right.
checking out those multi-sport courts and how it relates to those.
That's
that DG and concrete path, and that's where you come in. Make sure we have enough space out there.
Great. Okay, so we'll set up some time to check that out. Anything else on the multi-sport courts? Okay, so we have some homework to do. And then the Upper Libby Park restrooms. Looks like we have an update. Is that the drawings here?
Yeah, I wish this was an update, but this really is the same plan that we looked at before.
It is the
This
same.
no
I
different.
just brought the same plan in just
Okay.
for your
All right.
enjoyment.
It's a nice quality print of the last one. I don't know if everybody got that.
Well, no,
That's,
that just happened to be left over
really?
in the copier.
But really, this one, unfortunately, is, it's on the proposed projects this year, but we're pretty busy with the paving and a bunch of related work to that, as well as the ATP project and our trolley rates and a bunch of other work we're in the middle of. So this one's on there. I've worked with the consultant who's supposed to be, and they didn't actually even get me the proposal. It seems like a lot of architects are all super busy right now, and they're just, we're always trying to get the deal, try to keep it real tight in our budget. But, so as I recall, last time we had gone through this, and we had, I didn't bring the one I'd marked up, but we looked at the, kind of the option 2, and we agreed we'd like to have something, and with the men's and women's on separate sides, I think with interior mirrors and sinks to try to make it a little bit easier for people to utilize in privacy of the restroom. And we looked at separate doors that could be locked off, so we didn't leave them open all the time. So that's the part I talked with the architect, and he hadn't got back to me actually with even his price proposal, so I got to push him again on that.
Okay.
So I think, yeah, so as we had kind of a hybrid between option 2 and 3, as I recall. I'm trying to think of,
Has it ever been discussed to do one over on the Signal side, where there used to be an old one? Like a separate standalone that you'd use for events that you wouldn't open up?
oh, the one that, you mean that
This went out years ago. It's
Yeah.
been gone
Right
for a
where the
long
little
time.
bridge is that
Yeah,
goes.
right in
Yeah,
there.
no, right where you're talking
But that
about.
area, I mean, I just keep thinking for part of the reason we're doing this is for events and for the bowl and all that. And I wonder if it wouldn't be advantageous to literally have a separate one. That doesn't have to be as big, but that you could have both open, 2 places to go. Because if you go to the events, man, the line is 26 deep, sometimes
yeah.
on the ladies' side. And so I'm wondering, and I know what we did and why we went around this, because we would still need to remodel this one, even if we did a new one. But would it make sense? Is there area over there to do that? And it's so close to the street, which seems like it would be very accessible to the sewer.
I think some people call that the Lowell picnic area, right?
The Lowell picnic area.
Yep.
And I don't know if, but there used to be one there many, many, many years ago on
Right,
that side.
yeah, there's a sewer line right there.
Right
So that's a
there.
big factor, right? So I guess the only trick that seems to always come up is it breaks everybody up. So if you've got one target area that's readily available, it seems like having that in one location when you start saying, oh yeah, we've got this one that's crowded, but, a little neon sign, extra space, 150
I think
yards to
people
the
would
west
figure
or
it out.
something. Yeah.
I
yeah.
really do, having gone to enough concerts now that if you told them that if we could do any good signage, but it's as a way maybe to open it up only when you need it, because we've talked about having another separate one, but we talked about having it right next to it, which I really don't like. But maybe that idea, but moving it over that way.
I'm sorry, where's that location you're talking about?
If you walk from the Upper Libby Oak Grove area, halfway between the multi-purpose building and the playground, and you just go directly west towards the music festival.
Okay.
where the
you
music
drop into
festival
that lower
offices,
park area.
across from there, that whole area there, there used to be a bathroom
just in
there.
that kind of lower,
Yeah.
where the
Yep.
There's
little
picnic tables down there.
Yeah.
creek is.
Yeah.
I think the picnic tables is where the restroom
That's-
was, right?
Nah, maybe, I think so, I don't
Yeah.
remember. I just remember over
It's
there
pretty
in that
close.
area, there was
It's pretty
a-
close to
yeah.
right in that area, because it
Yeah.
was there when I first started playing tennis down there.
Is there enough space down there for another
Well,
facility?
it
Wasn't
depends on.
very
Maybe.
big.
I don't know,
Yeah, that's
just-
where, the creek breaks through there.
Right.
Yes, but I was just thinking it might be something to look at if you're gonna do an absolute separate one, to do it literally separately, open it up for events and then have it shuttered.
Right. I guess it puts a little bit further away from the majority of the park, whereas the other one's closer. But if there's an aesthetic consideration, you're concerned about the visual on it, being black, because we're really talking, this would be, if you're looking down south in the park towards the bleachers and all that, you'd be towards the tennis tournament bleachers. You'd have the existing restroom on the left, and on the right, you'd have the multi-purpose. So we're talking about that space in the middle being this expanded restroom area. It's where a pine tree died a couple of months ago there, and we had to pull it. So,
Following somehow.
hmm.
You guys, are you all on page?
The area you're talking about, I'm clear on, which is
Yeah.
right next to Signal Road. That's kind
Yeah,
of
by
lower
Signal
picnic.
Street.
Uh-huh.
area.
Yeah,
So I'm talking about if you walk from the Libby Fountain and you're heading towards the gazebo, right, you head that way and you head for the restroom. So you're kind of heading down.
oh,
the
it's where you proposed it, and a
Yeah,
second one
right,
right there.
right, that's what I
I
was just
really don't like that, because aesthetically, it's just this
Yeah.
big blocky buildings. It doesn't do anything to improve the park or the way that it looks or your views into the park, so. And honestly, I just keep thinking, the sewer line is right there.
Right.
When you're on Signal, so you don't have the issues that we seem to have some issues with sewer over there already. I don't know, I just, it would be,
But I think too, it's what's the best use of the money? And do we want to create something that's only usable 20% of the time when there's events going on, or not? To me, that seems to be a waste of money.
well, as I said, I think we would need to remodel the other one no matter
No,
what.
I agree with that.
And then if
totally.
we built another one that's specific to events, we definitely have, that is part of what's driving this, is that we need to accommodate not just everyday use, but special event use. And separating them out means that you don't have to worry about shutting down doors or locking stuff up. You just use that one like you normally use it, and then when you need it, you open that one.
If there was money available from some of the event people to help defray the cost of that, that mimight be something to look at.
Well, if-
Music festival, whatever
Or
the Libby Bowl people.
Civic Association, present that as an option, see if that's something maybe they're interested in, because they have money to
Yeah.
spend in the park. So it might just be something to see if it's feasible, to see if maybe that's something they would be interested in, if they would entertain that. I don't know.
It does seem like, I mean, we're going to end up with option A is to rehab the existing restrooms with a cost for the supplemental restrooms, a separate building. And then we're going to have this cost for, which we kind of have already, for option, a total knock down the existing structure completely and try to rebuild it close to that footprint, expanded footprint. And so, but if we have that option, I guess just throwing out the middle option, which is keep the existing, it obviously stays where it is, and then the new one, I don't know if it can fit that footprint over there. That sounds like that could be up for grabs. I mean, one is what the Ojai Civic supports, and because the funding's real critical.
Yeah, I understand that.
And then maybe it comes down to another field visit to get out there and say, what do we think?
Could we do this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I'll make sure when we propose it to Ojai Civic that we mention that the separate building could go here or there if there's other people. Because it is true, I mean, that area you're talking about, the Lobel picnic area, drops from the other elevation probably, I don't know, 6 or 10 feet.
Yeah, there's
So-
steep steps. It would not be an ADA accessible bathroom. The other one would be that. I mean, in the sense that, well, you have access if you go all the way over to the path. That is accessible, depending on where you put it.
It's a good point. Another consideration, yeah. That could increase cost too, right, if you got ADA path going over there.
Right. And what I think you do to the picnic area already, don't you? Isn't there access there? I don't know. Anyway,
I
a
think
field
there's
trip for
steps
another
that
day.
go up into the, yeah.
Okay.
I think there is from the Signal Street to get down to it.
Right.
But I don't think there is from there to get up into Libby Park.
I think you have to go all the way around to the parking lot, don't you?
There's a ramp, but it's steep.
Isn't-
I don't know if it's too,
Compliant.
There is the ramp, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be pre-current code, but yeah. Yeah,
I don't-
good questions, yeah.
The other, when we were talking about this option of having a new building somewhere else in the park, the other option that was thrown out in June when we talked about this was closer to the bike path. I don't know.
Oh, right, throwing it way to the
in the
south
back.
side of the bleachers in the tennis courts, right.
Yeah, so I don't,
Then that would be one that you only opened up when you needed it.
yeah, the same idea.
Yeah, okay.
It'd be like a special events.
I mean, we might get the budgetary squeeze where we just say it has to be, it's not a high quality structure, it's kind of a lesser
If you're putting it back
modular
there-
structure and all that. So it could be modular just for that, and which is tricky because you're almost getting to these temporary, those different levels of the restrooms that you bring in. You can have just the basic, Forrest Gump style, which maybe they have high quality in case they happen to be.
Think about the skate
Review
park.
this someday, so right. And then you've got the modular ones which are drop in. And modular can vary significantly. You can have really nice, high quality modular, or you can have simple. And then it becomes an architectural feature on the exterior of what it looks like. So I guess we have a lot of options there that we're moving slowly towards. Yeah, this hasn't been the highest pressure project we have going on, but yeah.
Sure.
And it is about the funding, so.
Right. So I think for me in the immediate, I want to get, we're already working on the sewer issue. We've got a contract with a civil I'm working with to design a grinder system to pump it through the sag that goes underneath that creek right next to the Lobel picnic area
Right
we're
there,
talking about. The sewer line actually dips down underneath
Oh,
there.
it goes that back up. Oh,
So it's an
wow.
old clog issue problem there, so that'll kind of remove that. And then, so we're moving forward on that, and I'll get together with this architect and try to, these guys, especially when they're busy, they're not interested in small stuff, but I'll try to get some nice concepts and little visuals, and I think I think we're basically refining these, getting the prices a little bit better.
Okay, great. Thank you. Anything else in restrooms? No. Good.
Thanks, Craig.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks for coming.
Yep.
Doing great. All right. So we actually have two discussion item 8Cs. So the second discussion item 8C. I guess it's continued.
No, we just continue.
Sorry,
No.
we missed this part.
Yes.
Sophocles and I and Patrick were talking about reestablishing, thanks, Greg.
Greg.
A naming committee. I know there had been a fair amount of work put into this before. I think almost all of us were on the commission, and we've heard some interest in people donating money or having things named or labeled, and so we thought it'd be good to try to wrap that one up.
Yeah, I think it would be great. There is no city policy for plaques or naming of facilities, and it comes up from time to time, and it would be helpful if we had some policy on that and protocols for it. So there was a decent amount of legwork done for that committee.
I have the file.
Allison
I have
has
not
a
opened
pretty
it, but
thick,
I have it. I am in
pretty
possession of
thick
that file.
Yeah, I think
So-
they've got to the point where they were presenting possibilities for a policy.
Yeah,
And
it
so
was close to
There were some
being
questions in a
finished.
couple of areas that just came back, and they were trying to,
Yeah, it was brought to the commission,
Mhm.
this commission, and it just needed a little bit of fine tuning.
Yeah.
But,
So we need,
There's a
just
couple of
would take-
commissioners interested in reading through that.
Yeah, I would like to do that.
Okay.
Just because I've been approached by people that would like to get that moving.
anyone else interested?
So I can just come by the rec center and take a
Yeah,
look at the file?
I'll pull it out and look through it,
Okay.
and
It'll be
get it
next
kind of ready
week.
for you. That's fine.
Do you think we need a second person for now? I mean, it seems like just having one person.
Maybe just the two of us can see what's there and see
Yeah.
if we need more help or not.
That'll work.
So, should we
we need to make a
form
motion.
that committee? Yes.
I make a motion to form an ad hoc naming committee.
We have a second to that?
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
all right,
Motion
Motion.
passes. We now have an,
Now, should we nominate someone to the committee? Or should we have done that as part of our committee?
yeah, I'll nominate Commissioner Murphy.
Second.
Okay, do we need to vote on that? I guess so,
may as
yeah.
well. It wouldn't
So,
hurt.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We got it. So we now have an ad hoc naming committee. Great.
Well done.
Recreation staff report updates. Teen workshops, #adulting.
Okay, so
Allison can take that.
we have postponed the workshops to the spring since there has been some scheduling issues. The winter and fall are very busy, especially for students, and we decided that'd be easier and give us more time to promote the classes and get like instructors that are sure that they can do it at that time.
Okay.
Yeah. So we do have 3 set that have instructors that are ready and excited to do it. So I think it'll be good. We can set them for, maybe February type time
After
zone
the
as well.
holidays.
Exactly,
Yes.
when people are kind of less crazy, and we do have plans to be on the school district site for for some of those.
Oh,
And
good.
so it'll be much easier to schedule with it. One of the main scheduling things was we couldn't do it on SAT days.
Right.
So that's like
Which is a lot of
every
Saturdays.
other
Yes.
Saturday or something. So
Or
And
ACT on the other one.
You're still looking for instructors for some of these?
potentially,
Okay.
Yeah.
What expertise are you looking for?
I do not remember off the top of my head.
We had, okay.
We have some potential ones that are just more logistically difficult. Like we have the life skills one that would be laundry and cleaning and
Yeah.
those kinds of ones where we're trying to kind of figure out how to do that logistically. It's more about that than the actual instructor. But
Discovered there is a space at Nordhoff
There
that
is.
we use as a green room for drama that has sinks and stoves and stuff.
Okay.
So
interesting. We'll look
You
into
know,
it.
Possibility.
there might be some other rooms, I'm not sure, on other campuses where they do teach life skills.
Right.
Nordhoff does. They still do. They have I know they do laundry. It's for their special needs class. They still teach that.
So they might
They
have
don't teach it to the
facilities.
rest of the
Right.
classes, but
But they might have facilities already set up to emulate kind of the
yeah.
setting that you're looking
Yeah.
for.
Okay, I'm going to really date myself here. They don't have home ec anymore?
no.
Okay.
Unfortunately not.
Which is why we want to do it.
Yeah, okay.
Typing is
Because we've
gone
received
too.
the feedback that the students.
That's where you learn all that
visit.
stuff.
Yeah, I'd like to know how to do taxes and stuff. That'd be helpful.
So the three that we do have like set and that will be happening in spring are basic finance, who we have an instructor for, so like how to be a good employee. So
That one includes like interviewing.
no, well then we have an interview
Separate.
skills and a resume building.
Nice.
So those are the three that we have, and we have instructors ready.
Great.
Good work, you
yeah.
guys.
And yeah, if you are looking for instructors, maybe send a note to the commission and we
Yeah.
can spread the word.
I'll go back to the ones that we hadn't scheduled.
I think it's just the home ec stuff that we haven't.
Yeah, and then there were some others that we were kind of considering, like we were talking about like a cooking
Yeah.
one and a couple others like that. But we're moving forward with the ones we had instructors for. So now that we have some more time, maybe we can consider a couple of those others. So
Great. Very exciting. Okay.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah, please.
I mean, that's a
Do you
great.
wanna come to the
please
mic?
Come to the mic.
You didn't know who I am.
Yes.
My name's Mike Shapiro. I'm a new resident in Ojai. Great idea. My daughters, both in college, their sororities did the same thing. Now it's a different scale in college to get them ready for when they graduate, but they did have finance. They did have cooking, which is one of the things. But one of the other great things they had was how to maintain your car.
That's a good
Oh.
we had talked
Simple
about
things,
including that
changing
one.
oil,
Yeah.
how to change a tire, knowing what the different emergency lights that come on, so you know how to take it in and get it fixed. If you ever seen the Allstate commercial, know what a tire iron is. So they did classes. They brought someone in. They did someone for finance, just once a week at their sorority meetings. Brought some other expert in and just gave them a basic overall. So when they get out of school,
Yeah.
there they go. They can do that, and that's great even for high school. Is
Yeah.
that what this is about?
Yes.
So when they
Juniors
go
and
away to
seniors.
college, some are going in apartments. I mean, your freshman year, you have to live in a dorm, but after that,
Yeah.
you're on your own. My daughters, I'm teaching them how to cook because they have no clue, and they're in apartments. So I just, consider the auto thing too.
Yeah, that's
That's a big
great.
deal.
That's something that had come up. So this came about, we have a youth ad hoc committee that Maya spearheaded, and we're looking to do more programs for high school students, and this is actually what came from them, this is what they're looking for. One of the things that was said was they go from having to ask permission to use the restroom, and then 2 months later, they're expected to be living on their own and to know all these different things. So trying
Yeah,
to
the evils
bridge
of a
that
credit
gap.
card, and yes.
Trying to bridge
that's-
that gap of giving them the knowledge they're going to need when they're freshmen in college. So, yeah, the car maintenance is a good one that we'll revisit.
Yeah, no, that was a big thing for her, being
Yeah.
out there in another state on her own with a car. So
Yeah, definitely.
thank you.
Thank you.
Great,
Thanks.
thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else on the teen workshops?
Not.
They're coming
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
All right.
Good job, Lance. Keep
You'll
Okay.
see them.
No update. I haven't got anything on the bike park. I don't know.
Well, it sounds like they are moving back toward finishing that environmental report because they had kind of stalled it a bit because of the OUSD property and thinking that might be a possibility. But now they're resolved in the fact that that isn't a possibility anymore. And they're going to move forward with the site, the Lower Libby parking lot site, which I think you're all aware of. That is the designated site for the bike park, the what I consider for most of the year the unused portion of the park. So John Lamar had sent an email to Greg actually recently saying they want to move forward and who's going to pay for what. Like the tree is going to be I'm sorry, I'm looking here what it's called, but just a tree report, and just figuring out who's financing what on this total environmental report, and they have to do a drainage plan, and so they're definitely back on it, or John Lamar is back on it.
Great.
Wanting to move that forward.
Okay. Thanks for the update.
Yeah.
Movie nights.
movie nights. We had our, just this last Friday? Friday before last, or just this last Friday? Yeah, we had, how many kids at that?
59 participants.
Yeah, 59 kids at, what was that, Smurfs?
Smurfs, yep.
Our next movie night will be Friday, November 17th, Despicable Me 3.
Good
So
one.
that should get a pretty good audience. Let me see, what can I jump to next? Out of city revenues, this is way off the topic of movie nights. So out of city revenues, it was brought up in our joint meeting asking what are the annual out of city revenues. So
You mean
almost
out-of-city
to-
fee.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
out of city fee revenue.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there we go. So it's 8,500 in fiscal year 15, 16, it was 8,500, and 16, 17, the same. So,
Very consistent.
yeah, it was. So you figure, I don't know, that's about 200,000 in registration revenue, or just a little
What
bit
was
under
it
that.
before the guide started going valley-wide?
I
That would be
don't,
the important number for me,
Oh.
is where did that jump, what was that jump?
15, 16.
well, I think we started.
That would have been in the middle of 15,
It
16,
would have,
wouldn't it?
yeah, probably
no.
would have,
Yeah.
or
We'll have
we've
to
been
look at
doing it for we have been doing it for 2 years.
Oh, yeah, so it would have been beginning of 15 and 16 fiscal year.
It,
Because
that
I
is-
would
it-
have to believe there would be a jump.
You want to know
in-
what what you want to know probably is 14, 15.
14,
Right.
15.
Prior to us mailing out the guide, what it was.
Correct.
Yeah, we can, I don't have that number, but I can get that number.
It'd be
But
interesting
both
to
years,
see.
I mean, it was within $40 between fiscal year 15, 16, and 16, 17. So it's a pretty consistent number as far as out of city non-resident revenues go.
Which is interesting because our revenue went up, so the percentage technically went down. The percentage of the fee that we've collected, the non-resident fee, has gone down because our revenue has gone up. So
But-
theoretically, that number would increase with it.
I mean, logic would dictate that the out-of-city fees would go up once we did the valley-wide mailing, because more people are then from
Well, I'm
outside the,
saying- but I'm
outside the
saying
city.
15, 16, and 16, 17,
Don't show that.
they're the same, the guides went out in
No, I
both
would
of
expect those to
fiscal-
be the same.
Right, yeah.
I'm worried about prior to the guides
Right,
going valley-wide.
right.
That's,
I
And part
get
of
that.
part of mailing the guide wasn't just extending outside of our area, it was extending to people who aren't
Adults.
affiliated
It
with
was-
schools.
Yeah.
And so some of our
That
bump
was the
from the
biggest
guide
impact, was adults.
was
yeah.
adults and adult education, because before that, we weren't reaching a lot of those people, even in the city.
no, I understand all that. I just like to
But
know
I
what
think-
the difference
yeah.
is. I mean,
I think the number will be just because
similar.
revenues have increased. I was going to say they might be a bit lower.
Well, we'll see
Well, we're
next
going to
time
find out. You're going to
Tune
get
in
that
next
number.
for the update.
Question, two questions regarding that. Number one, are we using that information in regard to the valley-wide park? And two, if there is or ever was going to be a valley-wide park, would out-of-city fees be waived?
Well, ultimately, I think if you're trying to do a special district that is a parks district, you're creating a revenue stream that everyone pays into. So, and so we would we wouldn't have an out of area because everyone's in area.
Yeah.
And that's my
So
understanding.
that's the purpose of finding out what the information, or what our income was from out of, or is it just out of
It
curiosity?
came out of our joint meeting, but
Right.
that definitely is useful information to understand who, how much we're already getting in revenue from them, not just the fee, but what they're signing up for and paying for as far as classes. and
Comparatively
fees.
to what's in city, what's the?
The percentage, do you have that percentage? Because we've gone back and forth. Often it's been greater
60, you mean
Well, so-
the number
in
of
and out.
in
using-
and out.
Yeah.
It's 30 to 40%. I would say are out. Probably closer to 40% of our participants are non-resident. I'll split the difference and say 35% are non-resident. We really should get that specific number too. I think we can get that number
The guy,
for
Commissioner Jacobson, I
resident,
think
non-resident.
what maybe to give you some relative sense of things, total expenditures for the rec department are close to $1 million a
Yep,
year.
that's right.
And 600,000 of that is recovered, 650,000 is recovered from fees. So then the
Close to
city's
7.
kicking in the rest
Or
of
revenue.
Well, he's talking about straight revenue, not
Revenue.
not with the subsidy, just
Yeah.
that.
our revenue. I think
Right,
we
right.
were at
So just to give you a
630,
sense of the magnitude of the
630 less.
numbers, city's kicking in $350,000. You know, the extra part of the revenue from kind of out of city people is $8,500, which is pretty minor.
Yeah, I was just trying to tie it into.
Yeah. But yes, I think that's definitely part of the economics that we'd want to look into with the Valley-wide district. Kind of understanding kind of how things work currently.
Right. In keeping in mind, we that 35-40% is critical for us to be able to have viable programs too. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're a big, the non-residents, it seems so strange to call them non-residents when they're in Miners Oaks and Miramonte, but they're a big part of our facility and, you know, our operation.
They're just non-city
Need them.
folk.
They're just
Non-city folk.
Yeah, we
You are
try not to
non-city.
tell, we do not say that.
Okay.
Okay, a few other things happening. We've seen a nice little uptick in our tennis participation. We've got a lot of really good feedback on our new instructor. He's actually reached out to Wild Tennis Academy to get volunteers from their program, and I think
nice.
there's going to be 10 to 15 Wild Academy players volunteering in our youth program.
That's a really nice partnership. That's
Yeah.
great.
Like a mentoring kind of a.
Yeah. Yep.
Great way to get service hours for them.
Yeah, because they actually use our courts right before our classes begin, so they'll just stay and help out with our classes.
Great.
That's
Yeah.
really neat.
Yeah.
The library, we're working on our winter spring activity guide, and Megan Sennett, one of our newer rec specialists, did a really nice ad, a quarter-page ad, which will be you'll see it in our guide.
That's great.
Great.
So it'll have their activities at the library.
Yeah,
wonderful.
you'll see all the activities in there. They have quite a few.
They do.
Yeah.
They have so much going on, so I think it's going to be really a wonderful thing to put it in there, so people, a broader set of people, understand all that they do.
Yeah. So Ron, I forget his last name.
So yeah.
What's the?
Salazano or
Salazano. That sounds about right.
Ron S.
Yeah.
Ron.
Ron. We had a nice conversation about trying to do some potential partnerships and
Excellent.
share facilities type of thing down the road. Speaking of rec specialists, we had one of our rec specialists leave the department. So we do have a vacancy there, and just throwing out there for the potential audience that we'll have an ad in the Star. We're going to put it on our Facebook page, or it's on our Facebook page. And I believe the deadline for applications November 14th. So
You put anything on
front
Craigslist?
office.
We have not for the past couple years since they started charging in order to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
We used to, and it was free.
We used to do it on Craigslist.
We could revisit it. But
Yeah. But right now it's Star we'll have it in there for 2 weeks and on our Facebook page.
And nothing in the local, in the Ojai Valley News?
Not in the Ojai Valley News. No, we haven't. It's rather expensive. Put it there.
Some of the other Ojai community pages, Ojai community.
Oh, do you want to just, what are they? Tell me.
Yeah,
Job
Ojai
boards.
Community Forum,
Oh,
Ojai Community Network might leave it on their page.
And Ojai Job Board,
Job board,
I'll
yeah.
share it to
Yeah,
those
there's
pages.
a lot of pages like that.
Yeah.
You can put it on my page.
Yeah. So the rec department itself, the recreation Facebook page doesn't have the ability to share to those pages because the recreation department is an organization that can't be a member of those pages, but I can personally share it to those pages, so I plan to do that.
And Amber can put it on the city website.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, it's going on the city website too.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. It's a good reminder.
And that is a part-time position, 20-hour position, mostly afternoons or all afternoons, actually.
Where I
not
got my
mostly.
start.
Could that also go in the high school bulletin?
It could, but we're not looking necessarily.
You're looking for an older people?
Yeah.
Okay.
People, yeah.
It's also during school time.
Yeah, it is during, the shift is 1 to 6.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We are going to be part of a wellness fair that's being held at Ojai Valley Inn on November 8th. When I say we are, the recreation department will be represented there. The wellness fair is from 9 to 3 p.m. And a lot of that wellness fair is for Ojai Valley Inn's actual employees. So we've done that in the past. It's kind of nice, and we were invited, so we accepted.
Is it open to the public or?
I'm not sure if it's open to the public.
Not that I understood.
know of.
So it's for staff.
It's for staff.
It's for their large number of staff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Promoting all kinds of wellness from, mental, physical wellness.
All
The whole spiel.
aspects. Commissioner vacancies, so I guess I'll jump down to that. As far as I know right now, I think we have 4 applicants. So once again, we did a bit of a push to promote or try to get more applicants for these 2 vacancies that we have on our commission. We have an ad in the Ojai Valley News. We put it on our Facebook page, and then we did a mass email to everyone in our database, the Recreation Department database. So I actually think we'll see quite a bit of action from
Did
that. We already have 4.
Did we put a
4
cutoff
applicants for it? We did.
The 14th.
November 13th
13th,
is the
okay.
cutoff date for applications.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, we have someone in our audience who's applying.
Doing some research.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's all I have for updates. I know, Allison, you wanted to mention our basketball league.
Yes, youth basketball. It is almost that time of year. Actually, a month from now, December 2nd, is the player rating. So that's coming up really fast. I'm super excited for youth basketball. We're going to start doing all of our pushes with the flyers and all that kind of stuff. I am looking for staff. We have some staff returning from last year, but I'm always looking for referees or officials, both older people who've been doing that a while, as well as kids. I hire high school students as junior referees, so they work with an older referee to kind of learn and grow in that. As well as scorekeeping staff, so sitting at a table, So if anybody knows anybody looking for so that's very part-time. It's Saturdays throughout the season, and then sometimes during the week, a few hours. Yeah.
Okay. 1, I could put it in the bulletin.
Okay.
And 2, I know half the soccer team at Nordhoff. So
interesting.
I can talk to them and see if they're interested in helping out.
Cool. I usually also utilize another of our commissioners' son in my recruitment, which is always really nice. We usually get at least a few Nordhoff players that either that staff. I have a current staff that's on the Nordhoff team, as well as coaches. It's really great. They come out and volunteer, and to have the junior, senior players coaching a 3rd and 4th grade boys team is a lot of fun. Actually, we have a couple of Nordhoff High School girls players that are looking to coach this year too, which will be a lot of fun.
That's
great. Yeah, so we're super excited about that. It's going to be a great
parenting.
basketball season. Opening day is January 6th. If you guys want to just mark that on your calendar, and if you're not doing anything that day, come by, and both at Matilaha and at Sarasota we'll have games going all day. It also happens to be my birthday, so I'm very excited to get to.
So there'll be cake.
I get to celebrate my birthday with opening season of basketball, which is always a fun day. So, and then another one that I just thought of, another class update, which has just been blowing up, is our music classes. Our guitar and keyboard, they started a new session today, and before the class even started, early in the day, both classes are full.
That's great.
So that's a class that was kind of teetering. We would get a couple students here and there, and then he revamped it with this rock band idea. And it's been full the past 2 sessions, and really good feedback. People have been really enjoying it. So it's a good one.
And back to basketball,
Yeah.
Allison. So the early bird, we'll call it early bird registration.
Early registration.
Cutoff is
December 1st.
December 1st.
So early registration. Get registered before the beginning of December.
Yeah, you can save $10, and also you can secure your space on a team, because some of the divisions
they will fill.
Do fill that third, fourth boys.
Third, fourth boys, fifth, sixth boys, and fifth, sixth girls always fill.
Yeah, so if you have a child in those divisions, you'll want to get in ASAP.
Are there kids that want to play that can't?
Usually not very many. So usually it'll be full. We'll take a wait list. If I can get enough people on the wait list to add an extra 2 teams, we'll do that. So usually we end up with just a few people, and it's the people that come on January 20th or December 20th and are wanting to add in. But if people get in, like the first week of, or in December, beginning of December, end of November, we find a way to get them in.
Okay.
Right, because each team max is 8 on each team. We don't like to do any more than that.
Correct.
Because
so
it
6 to 8 players on every team.
It affects playing time. The math on that is when you're trying to get everyone playing minimum 2 quarters, and you have 8 kids.
And we do have really strict rules for the coaches to make sure that everyone's getting equal playing time. So they're not just playing the top players. Every player has to sit for a certain amount of time, and every player has to be in the game for a certain amount of time, since it is a rec league where we want all kids to be having the same experience of being on the court. So that's all.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
And then I'll say one last thing. So the picnic rentals have been going really well. They're well used, and with those well used picnic areas comes increased volume of people and noise. So we've had some noise issues, specifically sound amplification complaints from the neighbors. So we've actually had to adjust our policy for sound amplification. So just again, for your knowledge, and maybe anyone out there still listening, it's 4 hours max of sound amplification, and not to go past 8 p.m. We used to, the old policy was, we've always allowed sound amplification in the picnic areas, but it was 8 p.m. you had to turn down your music, whatever that meant. And if the police department was called out, you would lose your sound amplification deposit. But even with those kind of rules, it still wasn't working. We still had people playing their music from whenever their party started, let's say 1 p.m. all the way through 10 p.m. So now, again, it's 4 hour maximum of sound amplification, not to go past 8 p.m. And only one area can have sound amplification on a given rental day. So Saturday, a person comes into the rec and wants to have sound amplification. It's on a first come, first serve. So if area 2 has booked it and they have sound amplification, the other 2 areas aren't allowed to have it.
And that's on the application when they first apply?
We've completely revamped the application. And again, it's just due to the popularity of that space now.
The most noise the neighbor could hear would be 4 hours worth, no matter what.
Correct.
And
as far as sound amplification.
That's what I mean.
Concerned.
So one area couldn't have it from 11 to 3, and then another area has it from 3 to 7.
Right, because we want it to be a 4-hour
Okay,
max.
So I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a 4-hour max of sound amplification.
Got it.
So that's why we said, well, it's just going to be one area, because it's pretty rare that someone's going to come in and say, yeah, I'm going to just play I'm having my party and just play music for 2 hours. I mean, I guess technically we could split 2 hours with one party to another, but we're not going to go there. We just say, it's one group, and they have their sound amplification.
One permit per day.
One permit per day.
On a first come, first served basis.
On a first come, first served basis, right. So that, we're hoping that will eliminate some of the noise complaints that we've had, and we'll see how it goes. But otherwise, it's been
That's good.
incredibly popular, and
Great.
not every area is booked every weekend, but pretty close to it.
Great.
Yep.
Anything else?
That's all
on
I have
staff
as far as
updates?
announcements.
Oh, thank you. Commissioner committee reports and comments. We talked about the committees, but any other commissioner reports or comments? Anything on the youth committee that we didn't cover?
We've been focusing on the #adulting workshops.
Okay, great. It's going to be really good. Anything else? No? Okay, city council liaison report. Councilmember Francina.
Well, I don't have a report. I just want to say how thankful I am for your service. I think this is a very important commission because, I think most of us recognize how important recreation is, for a healthy society. I see it as like the greatest investment in people. It's crime prevention. It's creating healthy human beings. So I thank you for that. And my other thought was, am I holding this right? I'm never behind the podium anymore. So, this business of, it occurred to me, we should stop calling people that live in the Ojai Valley non-residents. I think we should, I'm going to say this at the council, I think we should start calling them, people that live in Ojai or in the Ojai Valley, and have more of a sense of the, because the borders are completely outdated. And it's, and every 10 years we discuss the pros and cons of a valley-wide city, and it's probably never going to happen. We may be able to pull a few people in. There's some areas that we're looking at. And but I think this business of non-resident has got to go. Thank you.
Thanks for that.
Thank you.
And thanks for coming tonight. All right, future meeting dates and agenda items. Our next meeting is December 7th. We are planning to talk about, for all of our ad hoc committees, to give updates on what they've been researching and working on at that point. So I think hopefully that'll take up most of the time. I don't know if there's anything else that we want to bring up in December.
Do you want those to be discussion items, the updates?
Yeah, because it is, I think, going to go kind of beyond a report, because we will want to discuss those things.
It'll take most of the evening.
Yeah,
I would think.
that's 4, maybe 5 committee updates.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, that'll be fun. Anything going into 2018 that you'd like to put on the radar? Okay, I think we've got our hands full with all the committee work.
One thing, I'd like to put the master plan on there periodically to
Okay.
look at things that we can chip away at, not just major projects, but thinking about ultimately shaping the park. For me, it's taking out the garbage enclosure that we don't use and just looking at certain small projects that we can get Public Works on board to do over time, so that when we come to the point where we have enough money to do capital improvements, we're already had the stage is set.
Mm-hmm. Good idea.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up about the Sarasota master plan, because while it was approved with that contingency of not touching the Boyd Center. So I did, in the conversation about the multi-use courts with Community Works, I also talked about what the cost would be associated with redoing that portion in the parking lot of that plan. Now, is that we can talk about, we can maybe add
Council
that
didn't
into
give
the
direction
discussion.
on funding for
On-
that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's something we want to put as part of that discussion item.
Sure.
He actually gave me preliminary
Numbers, I'm sure.
numbers,
Yeah. Mhm.
yeah, of what that would cost to
To
redo
do
that.
what?
To do that, to keep the Boyd Center there, and then.
To
but-
accurately represent the plan that was adopted, not the
Yeah.
information that we have that was based on the plan submitted to council. Because what was
Yeah.
adopted was different than what was submitted, and so we don't have any renderings or drawings or plans to reflect that.
Right, essentially to get rid of the 35 square,
It would-
potentially get rid of that 35,000 square foot building and put the Boyd Center and how that will affect that parking lot, the new parking lot we want in front of the building, and which actually interfered with the Boyd Center.
Anyway,
Parking lot,
it would,
anyway.
the discussion item is to discuss the
That,
master plan and what to do to update it to represent what was adopted by council
Yes.
versus what we submitted to council.
yes, along with some of the
And the
other
cost
things.
associated with that.
Yes.
Great. Anything else?
Yep.
Okay. This meeting is adjourned.